Okay, I believe we are live on YouTube. This is the bi-weekly edition of the OpenJS Foundation Standards team / group / club / working group. Are there any announcements or news items anybody want to share with this group?
I would like to propose that we add a few more slashes in that.
Okay, announcement. We need a cool new name. Got it.
Just a quick point of order. We have someone who needs to be upgraded from attendee.
Okay, well, everybody can do that now. I made all of you co-hosts. So.
A quick point of order. I've done it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, great. Well, I'll just share some of the similar announcements that I shared with the CPC group earlier, because they're certainly applicable here as well. In case you missed the announcement over just in December, we did settle on June 23rd and 24th for the next OpenJS conference, which is to be determined the name, but the call for proposals is going out tomorrow, so definitely think about what you might want to present. Along with that, we are planning a collab summit, most likely the 2 days prior to instead of in front of the conference. So this group will probably want to think about a session or a working meeting during the collab summit, so that should be on our docket in the coming weeks and months. If you want to get involved with planning for the collab summit, there's bi-weekly, or I think actually we might be weekly now, meetings for 30-minute meetings for collab summit planning. Yeah, I think those are the big ones. So cool. Assuming no other news, we can jump right into our agenda for today, and then maybe any other business after that. First item on the list here is audit membership list, which is number 53. I think Miles opened this. Do you want to introduce it, Miles?
Yeah, sure. Hi. So when we went to make the members listed on the README, it came to my attention that we actually already had a membership list. I think this was from when we first introduced the initiative. And then there was a handful of people who were already on that list who have not been attending the meetings, and were not part of the group who initially requested membership. So I opened this to audit the list, and basically what I suggested was, hey, I added at OpenJS Foundation standards, which would give a notification to everyone who was on that list, and just said, if you want to be maintained on the list, and you're one of those people who are on it from before, please chime in on this issue if you'd like to remain on the team. Because if I look really quickly, we have 14 members on that team, and quickly looking at it, there's 1, 2, 3, I think 3 or 4 people who are not part of the group that's been participating. So the idea was that the issue would be open for 2 weeks, and if people didn't chime in, that they would be culled from the member list. Alternatively, we could just leave people on there who have in the past asked to participate. My experience from other groups that I've helped to run is right now would be a good time to try to clean that up before we start adding more people.
I think that sounds like a good approach, and I think it makes sense to clean it up, just because it makes it clear to folks who may be thinking about getting involved who the best people are to reach out to. So
I guess a really quick one while we're here is someone said that they were not able to see the list. And I'm looking at this really quickly, and I don't know if everyone who is on the call right now is on the list. So I'm just doing a real quick comparison here, and I'm noticing.
I suspect I'm probably not. I still need to do something.
No, Richard, you are on the list.
Oh, okay then.
I am not seeing Donovan or Brian from the internet on there. Brian and Donovan, would you like to be included in this list?
I think it would make sense for me to be on the list since I am the AC rep for W3C.
Yes.
Yeah, Brian, could you toss your handle into the chat? And does anybody have any concerns with this? I know like we had talked about like a process with issues and pull requests, but both Brian and Donovan who are on the call have been engaged and active in a number of different things already. So this seems to me like an oversight more so than anything else.
I concur.
So do I.
Yeah. Donovan, would you like to be officially added to the list as well?
Yeah, that'd be good. I guess I still have I guess there's still the open question of my role with regards to TC53, but yeah, I would like to be on the list.
Great. Could you just toss your GitHub handle into the chat really quickly?
Okay.
Great. Got it. Thanks. And both of you should be getting invitations because you are not in the org. You'll need to accept the invitation before you're officially on the list. And once you do that, I'll update the README. Honestly, at this point, I really only see like 3 people on this list who, you know, have not been super active. Would people maybe be okay with just closing this issue and maybe just like pinging those people independently to ask them if they want to be involved?
I think that's seems fine because I'm looking at a couple of names. I feel totally, I know these people, I feel totally confident and comfortable saying, hey, you know, were you planning to participate this year? No big deal. So this seems fine.
Okay. If there's no objections, I'm going to go ahead and close out that issue, and then I'll follow up with Jory independently to follow up with folks.
Groovy.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Miles. I like you've done so much, like, you know, housekeeping stuff over the holidays. I thought I said that last time. I really appreciate it. All right. I'm just making a note.
While Jory is making a note, just mention it's not on the agenda or anything, but W3C tag election results were announced yesterday. So anybody who is interested in that, David Barron, Rawson, and Kenneth were the winners.
Great. And we did.
Thank you for the update, Brian.
Yeah.
Sure.
You cast our vote, I assume, and maybe you want to update the projects list just as an FYI for everybody else too.
I'm sorry, Jory, can you repeat that?
You'd sent a lovely email to the projects list about this. Do you want to follow up with an update about those results?
Those are who we voted for, so it worked out very well.
Yeah, great. Good.
I will just quickly remind people though that this meeting is live recorded and broadcast.
Yeah, that's why
Moving to issue number 43, joining the Unicode Consortium. Let's see, this was Emily's, and he opened it 27 days ago. Perhaps we should table this, since I think this would probably be more helpful to have his.
Without him here, though, one thing that I think I can see really quickly is that there is a cost to joining the Unicode consortium, and there are 2 levels that it looks like you can come in as a nonprofit, either supporting or associate. The costs ranging from $1,500 to $8,750. Not entirely sure what the differences are. It seems like associates specifically related to like not having a voting capacity, but just it might be reasonable for the proposal that we maybe find out like what level we'd want to come in at, so we understand if there's a cost associated.
Okay, so we can ping at least on that on the thread, and maybe Emily can join us next meeting. Oh, to tell us a bit more about this thinking and opportunity. Okay, so find out which level we would want to join. Related is issue number 32, and this is another Miles proposal, but Miles is here.
Hi.
Hi again. You want to talk about OSI?
Yeah, so this was actually brought up today at the cross-project council meeting, and overall seemed to go over well. The open source initiative has a thing called an affiliate membership. I'll drop a link into the chat. And so the OSI, it may be worthwhile to read over the really quick FAQ that I read for other folks. But OSI recognizes 3 types of organizations as eligible for membership. One of those is nonprofit organizations, which is a way in which we could join. The criteria is that you sign the OSI agreement and include a cover letter with the interests of affiliation as well as proof of qualifications. As far as I know, we do meet all of the qualifications. From a membership perspective, when we talk about why to join it, for affiliate members, OSI membership is an open government recognized nonprofit charitable and not-for-profit industry association. Academic institutions and user groups and committees anywhere in the world, as well as the benefit of associating your organization with OSI. Your affiliate membership allows you to organize your organization to participate in the process of defining the future means by which OSI achieves its mission, by both joining in discussion about proposed changes and policies and by guiding the selection of its members of boards of director. So, the OSI owns the definition for open source, as well as the active list of current open source licenses. I'm going to drop this about link in, which has more stuff in it. But essentially the commitment of joining is that we express public support for open source and the mission of the OSI, and that we appoint a delegate to act on behalf of our group with the OSI to participate in working groups. And we make annual contributions towards the running of the OSI where possible. This last line is something that I would love to get a little more clarity from the OSI on, but my understanding from looking at this is that there is no direct expectation of compensation for membership, for this affiliate membership. If I'm mistaken by that, that's something that we could dig into more. There's this affiliate agreement that we would have our lawyers look at, but it says nothing about money. One of the reasons of the time sensitivity of this is that the OSI has a board of directors election coming up in a couple weeks. There will be 2 seats for individual members available for election and 1 seat for affiliate members available for election. if we were to become an affiliate member prior to that, we could have someone from our foundation run for the board of directors. Independent of whether or not we decide to run, we would be able to vote as an affiliate member on the people who are running. I think that this really does matter to our foundation. All of our projects are licensed under OSI approved licenses. And with a lot of the discussion around sustainability and open source that's going around today, I think that it's a very important time to participate as good citizens and stewards of open source with OSI. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts at all?
So I guess do any of the current projects use kind of non-standard licenses or interest in non-standard licenses, or is our main interest kind of making sure that member projects' licenses remain kind of recognized?
So we have rules for the licenses. So like, as far as I know, and Jory may know if
Yeah.
I'm mistaken here, I believe we support Apache 2 and MIT. But I think there's a carve out for one or two projects who have a particular kind of GPL license, but in general, we encourage folks to use the Apache or MIT license. Jory, is all that correct?
Yes, and actually there was one single project that was using the GPL, and they actually are relicensing to MIT. So most of our, as Miles said, most of our projects are pretty standard in terms of use of Apache 2 or MIT, similar permissive.
And I think that like the intent for today would be that if new projects wanted to join that are under other licenses, that we would be wanting them to license on either the MIT or Apache 2. But I do want to think that the world moves in ways that we don't know. Who knows what licenses become more popular in the future or what projects want to join. Whatever the case may be, I think it's an important conversation to participate in.
My own 2 cents about it is that I do think we should pursue this because the topic of that, of the open source definition is one that is live within certain sections of our ecosystem. And there is an increasing desire on the part of a lot of projects to adopt licenses which are open source in their terms, but also, you have like the clauses, the morality clauses, things like that. That's all a very live discussion. And this is the forum wherein those debates happen. And so I think, if we want to know what's going on and we have something to say about it, then we need a seat at the table. So.
Fair enough. My take, not a lawyer, obviously, but my take is that having, kind of like moving towards community-wide agreement on a small number of well-understood licenses is better for everybody. Assuming that contributors feel represented. And so I'm kind of generally, supportive of this.
Yeah, sorry, I do have a question. Does this mean like CPC and standards are 2 different members if CPC also agrees to join, or does that mean no? Okay, so it will be one member.
The OpenJS would join. Sindel, I think the general idea here, it was presented to the CPC today because the standards group has not been chartered to oversee anything. I don't know if we actually have that on the agenda today. We don't, but maybe if there's time we can carve it out. But I think the idea would be the CPC is very focused on the administration and running of the day-to-day of the foundation and seeing the projects. And maintaining this relationship with the OSI would be something that I think would fall squarely within the standards group to maintain. Simply because the CPC only has, like so much time to deal with so many things, and this falls squarely kind of within the mission of this group. And part of going to become recognized and chartered by the CPC would be so that this group could make these kinds of decisions independently.
Would you mentioned a cover letter to OSI? Would that have to include kind of a statement of intent as to some kind of direction we want to drive things, or would it be sufficient to say that kind of something vague like OpenJS Foundation is involved in building healthy communities kind of stuff?
I think it could be vague. Honestly, like I think the ask that we could do as a standards group would be to ask Robin, Brian, Jory, the staff of the foundation to go ahead and see through this affiliate membership. And my gut would be, and Jory, correct me if I'm wrong, that the foundation staff could take care of the paperwork.
Yeah, we would happy to do that. I'm sure Brian or myself could take care of that paperwork.
Now, if we wanted to review that beforehand, we could. For the sake of time, though, I would like to propose that as a group, we just approve of saying, hey, foundation, can you just make this happen? And then, really only chime in as necessary for support that the foundation needs.
Yeah, if the cover letter is not taking a position on any of the kind of issues before OSI, then I think it can probably be delegated that way.
Yeah, I'm imagining not that the intentions are surfaced, but that like these documents are going to be like fairly high level, and it would be within our membership that we could talk more specifically about any specific ideas that we'd like to explore. So does anyone object to moving forward with asking the foundation to explore and execute on this OSI affiliate membership? Cool. Silence is golden. Thanks, everyone. The next step on this, and I'll follow up as soon as we know more, would be for the board of director elections. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's see if we can get this membership in a timely fashion, and then we can follow up with board-related stuff afterwards.
Do you know when they'll be opening that election?
I believe it's February 2nd. I'm just double checking right now. The board election was announced on the 1st. The 27th is the last day to join in order to run for an individual membership seat. Nomination period opens February 3rd. Nominations close February 28th. Election opens on the 2nd of March, closes on the 13th of March. Runoff elections run on the 16th and close on the 20th. And then the new board directors are seated on March 20th.
This is a bit of a meta, but that just reminded me that the different groups that we're working with, the different bodies and organizations have, I don't know what that sound is, but it's pretty crazy, have like elections and important deadlines and that kind of thing. Would this group be interested in a calendar to keep track of those kinds of things, so we can use our existing Groups IO tool for such a calendar, make it easier to keep track of what's happening when?
I would say, I would say all important standards dates, so including like meetings, conferences, like just like a standards calendar in general would be useful. Or are you imagining, Jory, that having those specific things related to elections on their own calendar would be useful?
Well, so we have like a table that has some important meetings and stuff in it, but I'm just realizing that that's not exactly the most consumable format for all kinds of information, and so using an actual calendar would probably be better, and the Groups IO will give us that, so maybe we could try that. and include the deadlines and stuff like that.
Yeah, that works for me.
Cool. Right. Cool. Super duper. All right, let's move down to number 24, which is TC53 participation. Obviously very relevant to Donovan and myself. We proposed that we join this committee under ECMA as well. And everybody was +1 on that. The issue that was left with me to follow up with Brian and Robin about signing an additional form with ECMA to indicate that we would be joining. Now, the reason we have to do this additional form is because the TC53 is also a royalty-free TC. So the organization does require everybody or all members to sign participation forms when they're joining the RF royalty-free task groups or technical groups. So I still haven't heard back on this. I imagine it's because it's one of those things that's not particularly high. It's a high priority for them, but it would sure be nice to get this done. So I will bump the thread again and probably just add Miles and Donovan to it too this time, just to see if we can close the loop on this. I don't know why they wouldn't be +1 to it, but I think it's just a matter of busyness. Any other thoughts or insight or?
No, I think that covers it. Thanks, Jory.
I'm sorry that's taken a minute, but
I guess a quick question that's kind of related to this and might be worth discussing in general as a team. In the CPC meeting today, there was discussion about the travel budget for the foundation at large. And as a standards group, do we want to maybe make you know, like a rough budget of what we think we may want to use of that and give a heads up to the CPC? I mentioned that because this group is turning out to be a little bit different in the sense that, you know, most folks who are participating are already projects and they're seen that way. Whereas, you know, this group here is kind of like a collection of people from projects, but not all just from projects, and our needs are not going to necessarily be the same. So it might be good to give a heads up that we're going to want to utilize that fund for engaging in these standards initiatives.
So that's definitely the next issue. We have that number 6. Travel budget. So before we do dive into that, which is super super important and timely as we call out, let me share that we do have a TC53 meeting on Wednesday, a teleconference or video call. So anybody who would be interested in you know, listening in on behalf of the OpenJS Foundation would let me or Donovan know, so we can get you added to that. And then there will also be a TC53 in-person meeting at the end of February. And are you hosting us in Texas?
Yes, we are.
Yeah. So so that will be in February. So let Donovan know if you want to go to that.
Yeah. I guess one thing that's worth bringing up too, that's tangential but related, there's been a lot of discussion at TC39 the last couple of weeks about note-taking, note-takers. In the past, there was an individual who was previously involved with the JS Foundation who did amazing work regarding notes, and it was considered actually by the committee to an extent be an in-kind donation from the JS Foundation. That individual has retired from that work for now, and there's a lot of discussion around trying to figure out you know, who could take on that labor and who could do that work. So something that Jory and I had kind of briefly discussed, but it's not by any means an official plan, was when thinking about what are good things for our foundation to do, why we would send people, how people could participate. A really great way of getting started with a standards group is through note-taking. You do not need to understand everything in order to take notes about it. It's also a great way to learn about everything by having to write it down and ask clarifying questions about the words you just wrote. But it's also one of those areas that can very easily become, not taken care of, as we can actually see from our own meeting notes from past meetings that don't have tons of notes in them. That's not meant as an attack, but more just about like how easy it is for a group to not do this work. So when folks are kind of thinking about where they're going to participate and what they're going to participate in, I wanted to identify helping with the notes, both during the meeting, but also organizing the notes and preparing them for publication afterwards as potential volunteer opportunities that our foundation could support ECMA with.
I still enthusiastically endorse that, and think it should definitely factor into, factor into budget planning, especially if we're like, it's almost like charity work doing technical notes.
Well, doing them for free is definitely charity work.
Right, exactly.
Because most people should be getting paid for it. Cool. Sorry, thanks for allowing that interruption.
No, I like it. Okay, cool. So now let us move to, on that note, let us move to the budget topic. Miles.
Budgets, how do they work? I don't know. Okay, anyway, seriously, the budget here is, we have a $60,000 travel budget for the foundation right now. Last year, 30,000 was used, but there was arguably less use cases and less things it was being used for. Standards in particular is something that can eat up quite a bit of the budget. Now, one of the things that's kind of an important historical bit from the budget when it was the Node.js Foundation is that, well, the budget is available to everyone. The intention was not that this should be used to save your company's money. So in general, if you worked for a company and you're representing that company at events or at particular places, that is not what this budget is for. If you work for a company that is a member of the foundation, as much as possible, that company should be supporting you to attend the foundation related events. If they won't and you still would like to attend, the budget is still useful, but you definitely should be, like coming and participating as a foundation member, but not like as a representing the organization. Separately from that, there's a bunch of people who, are either independent or students or work for smaller companies that don't have budget or don't prioritize that. And those are the folks who this travel budget is primarily designed for. It's we really, really want to make it something that makes these events, makes participating in these kinds of things available to everyone. We want to allow people to help build their careers, build their experience, and not be kind of limited either by their employer or lack thereof. But kind of the spirit of it, I think, is something that's really important. But this is a budget that we should be able to have access to. And I don't think that would be an issue. If we're asking to utilize the budget, I do think that it might be prudent, especially with some of the questions about whether or not we have enough budget right now, to maybe come up with a ballpark of what our group might be looking to use over the year for standard specific things. So I think that when we're talking about just like things like the OpenJS conference in June, I don't know if we need to be thinking about that, but it's like, Donovan, if you're planning to attend a TC53 event, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, sorry, but it's like, is that something your company would do, or is that something you'd be expecting us to cover? For those who are expecting to go to other standards meetings and maybe want to see the foundation cover it, we should maybe get a rough idea of what the budget for the year would look like for that.
So in my particular case, normally it wouldn't be something that my company would do because I'm not really representing my company at TC53.
Yep.
But I do happen to have a discretionary professional development budget, and that's how I've been funding it.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think in that case, that's a really great example of somewhere where like I would leave it up to you to decide what would make sense. If you have that discretionary budget and you have other things that you would like to spend it on, like for example, attending like JSConf US or attending other events that would be useful for your professional development where you're not representing the foundation, then that makes a ton of sense. If you don't think that you would be utilizing it otherwise, then it may make sense to not spend the foundation's dollars. But you know, that's the kind of thing where no one's going to be asking you questions deeply about it, and it would really be kind of up to you to decide what would make the most sense.
Understood.
I think another thing that's worth exploring on this too is like for some of these standards orgs, the difference between attending in person versus being able to participate remotely. So for TC39, for example, if there's going to be one in Japan in October or September, I think if everyone from the group all of a sudden says, hey, I'm going to Japan for TC39, you know, then we may run into some budgetary problems, especially when it's a meeting that people can dial into. Or, you know, TC39 is happening in Hawaii in January. That would be really nice to go to. It would be. But, you know, I think like perhaps we can find a balance of like, you know, I think how we decide who the delegates are that are representing us would maybe play into that as well.
Well, so, you know, this question of, you know, what would we ask for has been live for a little while. And, you know, I think, you know, we don't know until we get started with it, right? Mm-hmm. And I kind of would, I would offer to us, or I would suggest to us that maybe we just pick a nice number that we think is not improbable, say like $5,000, mm-hmm. and just say we anticipate making a request to the budget for standards related activities of about $5,000 in 2020, and then we can just track it and see how it goes.
Yeah, I think 5 is reasonable to start. I think that we could easily go above that, especially if we're doing something like TPAC, but we could play it by ear. Maybe the thing that would make a lot of sense for us as a group to come to a conclusion about is like, what would be the process of kind of saying that someone should request budget, more specifically. So like, unlike some of the other groups in here, like Node.js, where like someone may be going to represent the project, or more accurately going to like a collaborator summit. I think everyone here would want to go to collaborator summit, although most people could probably fall under their projects for that from a budgeting perspective. But when we're talking about going to a particular standards meeting and requesting budget for it, that is in effect now representing the foundation, which is mm-hmm. kind of a little bit different than how other people are using the fund. So we may want to come up with some sort of process of as a group as to like how we decide that someone is going to a particular meeting to represent us.
Yeah, and that seems very much related to other like ongoing like expectation conversations that we've had. I wonder if we have figured out as much of it as we are capable of figuring it out without sort of taking these first couple of steps. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's probably just as simple as someone opening an issue and saying, I would like to attend this meeting representing the OpenJS Foundation. Does anyone have any concerns?
Yeah. Yeah.
Does anybody... Sorry, you were going to...
Yeah, no. I'm agreeing with you. Go ahead. Sorry.
Does anybody have any concerns with that as like a process that we start with? Maybe add an agenda item to it and make sure that it's discussed in a meeting. And if there's no objections, then that person goes representing the foundation.
Yeah, I like that idea. We can do that.
Okay. I could take an action item of trying to document that if it's helpful.
Yeah, I think that would be great. And then, maybe somebody here will decide that, they want to go to a W3C meeting or a TC39 meeting, or go hang out with Donovan at TC53 meeting in February. And we'll try it out.
Yeah, I can put one in probably today, for the upcoming TC39 in February. I think it makes sense probably just to add to the calendar that we already have, so it's not just like an orphaned issue. Does that make sense to everyone too?
You mean add the event to the calendar we already have?
Well, yeah. So we've got we have that calendar in place now of all the meetings, actually all the events, and then we can add a new column.
Oh yeah, that says who, if anyone, we had participating in
Exactly.
person. Yeah, that makes sense to me. That seems helpful. That seems very helpful, actually.
Yeah, standards calendar. We have right now date, event, location, and SDO, and so we can just add a new column for representative.
Cool. All right, that sounds good. I'm just realizing that it is already 5 till the top of the hour. Let me take a quick peek at number 50 and see if we have time for this. I think number 50, let me just add my review really quick in the +1 because sorry, Sindel, I did look at this and I didn't ever submit a review.
Okay.
I think we can just, this is a PR that seems like it's been open for a while with plenty of +1s on it. Any issues with them? Well, I guess Cindy, why don't you summarize?
Yeah, I'd like to review it again. I haven't taken a look since the last time that I added comments to it.
Yeah. So I addressed the comments and basically I'm expecting. That's it. And if you have some more comments, let me know. But this is based on the discussion that we had like 3 or 4 meetings, and then consecutively accumulated all those things and also merged few documents. That's basically it. But just feel free to comment if you have any things or something like that.
I just took a look and it looks good to me.
Okay.
Okay, well, I think all in favor of merging this PR plus, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, cool. Great. Then I think that gets us through our agenda right on time and some stuff. I thank you all for a very fun and productive meeting as usual. We do have, some action items that we'll be sure to follow up on next time on OpenJS Foundation Standards Team meeting, and I'll dive into whatever the deal was with the Zoom.
Quickly before we shut down, can we remove the TC53 participation from the agenda, or is there still more to discuss on that?
I think we can remove that from the agenda, and I'll hopefully the next report you'll hear is like, this got done, and we close it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And if you haven't, I'm trying to realize I didn't ask everybody to make sure they put their name under the attendees list, and then that would be, along with your GitHub handle, that would be very dope. All right, well, I hope everybody has a great rest of their Tuesday, and we'll I look forward to chatting with you guys later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Bye, everyone.